The smartest women I know are often the ones doubting themselves, and they often doubt themselves the most. And it's not because they're not intelligent, it's not because they're not capable, it's not because they're not ready, but it's because they're not aware. And awareness without guidance becomes insecurity. And that's what we're talking about today. I'm Bianca Burke. I am an identity strategist. I'm also the founder of the Maven Matriarch. Welcome to the Maven Matriarch podcast. This is the space where we build mothers to lead in the home, in business, and most importantly, within themselves. Thank you for being here with me. I truly appreciate your presence. It is truly a blessing to be in the presence of like minded souls. So, as I said, today's episode is one that is deep for me because so many of us struggle with it, right? And it takes truly takes awareness and it takes constant evaluation of yourself to really manage it, right? And to beat it or to become better, right? Over time. And that is insecurity, right? To some degree, insecurity shows up in our daily lives, right? So we're going to focus on how this shows up for specifically for us as mothers and as entrepreneurs. When you increase your awareness, you begin to notice gaps, you begin to notice risks, you begin to notice the what ifs, right? Then you get into this mode of overthinking. Okay. You hesitate, you get stuck. As a stay at home mom, building businesses, you are struggling with family and ambition. And that often causes constant internal friction. It causes internal tension within you. You start to question in yourself if you're giving enough to either role. You start to question if you are maybe perhaps falling short. You're not insecure because you're lacking anything. Okay. The insecurity comes from you seeing everything, right? Because you see everything, but you don't have the direction. Okay. So I want to get into talking about six layers of insecurity. The first one is the identity conflict. Okay. And as I mentioned before, we have different roles, we have different identities that we play. Okay. So, first aspect of this is the conflict between you as a stay at home mom or a mom and your entrepreneurial identity. Okay. A lot of times you feel guilty for wanting personal growth or growth, even, you know, putting that effort into your business versus putting the same amount of effort, if not more, within your home. And that can cause identity conflict. A second aspect of it is the fear of judgment, even in this space, because a lot of moms go through that, right? People tell you, oh, you want to start this business, but maybe you should wait until the kids get older. Shouldn't you be focused on the kids? Um, and that fear of judgment where, you're living in two worlds at the same time, right? That insecurity loves that tension. Okay. And so a lot of us face that. I know that it's a lot of what stops or stalls women into going into building something for themselves. And a lot of this has to do with, you know, generational things that we inherited, um, and even just society. People judge us for all these things. So the second I wanted to talk about, the second layer is the comparison trap. Okay. So this is a big one. And I think everyone across the board can relate to this. Social media. Social media has put in our face everyone from all walks of life and even our peers, right? So we notice these people and we have this. left behind feeling. We've all felt it to some degree where, you you see people, moving along in their life. Maybe they're a little further than you. Maybe they're doing different things or doing things that you may want for your own life. And you get that feeling of insecurity because you're looking at yourself and saying, man, I want that. How are they doing that? And that causes that feeling. You're behind the scenes. And I want you to understand that you're behind the scenes is not meant to compete with someone else's highlight reel, because that is truly what's showing up on social media. Everything, when you see social media, take everything with a grain of salt. And I'm not saying people are out there faking their life, but you have to remember that more often than not, people are showing the bloomed flower. They're not showing the seed that was planted. Even for me in my own journey, my own personal journey was this. One of the things that helped me was that I limited the amount of social media I consumed. And I wasn't saying that I just cut off social media. What I mean is I decided that, you know what, I was going to create more than I consumed. I was no longer comparing myself, my life to others, right? It gave me the space. I created space for me to truly be myself, for me to truly create authentically. So, one of the things I urge you to do is to try that. Try to limit your consumption, right? Limit the scroll and create and post. Scroll for maybe a few minutes, put it down, create, post, and leave it. Okay. The third layer we want to talk about is fear of failure and judgment. When fear, we have fear of the mistakes that we made impacting our family. And I wanted to dive a little deeper because this is a big fear, right? And it could come in a lot of different ways. You look different in a lot of different ways. When you're a mom, right, and you have your children, anything that you do impacts them, right? So any time that you spend away from them impacts them. Any move that you make, whether it's in your business, for yourself, it impacts them. It impacts your life. And when we think of making maybe a financial mistake or maybe losing money or maybe spending, over the budget or, it impacts your family. And so that is a big one, right? That causes people a lot of insecurity. Um, Also, overthinking the decisions, right? It's not only the mistakes, but the decisions that you make impact the people around you, right? Because you worry also what your family will think. And not only your family, but the things that you do impact your peers, right? And how they perceive you. And while, we have good intentions, right? You want people to perceive you in the best light, that can stifle your growth. Okay. High awareness makes you anticipate outcomes. And that's a beautiful thing. But without strategy in that, it paralyzes you, right? Because you're highly aware of how people view you, which I think we all are and should be. But you need to make sure that you are not allowing it to stifle you. The fourth layer, and I'm guilty of this one, is perfectionism. And it's something that I had to learn really quickly becoming an entrepreneur. Waiting for the perfect plan or waiting for the perfect idea will stall you. Not only that, that is one key portion, but also perfectionists have a problem with celebrating wins, celebrating their small wins. And difficulty in doing that is not good. It's not good for your confidence, right? It will feed the insecurity, right? You don't have to be perfect to be an ambitious person. It's insecurity that causes that perfectionism. Because if you don't feel comfortable, posting a video that truly holds value, but maybe you made a mistake. Maybe your hair doesn't look right, or maybe, whatever it is. And that's just a small example. But, you know, you could have valuable information in that video to share with someone that could help someone. And you did not put that out. Mhm. That's insecurity. And that is holding you back. The fifth layer is self doubt. Self doubt that looks like or masquerading as realism. Okay? When you say to yourself, you know what, I'm being practical, I'm being realistic, that is fear. That is not strategy. Okay? And the crazy thing is that fear knows that you're ambitious, right? It knows. It knows you don't respond to, oh my gosh, I'm scared, right? Because you move past that. So what it does is it changes the language. It says, you know what? Let's wait a little bit. Let's wait. Let's be smart about it. Let's contemplate on it a little bit more. Now is not the time. Not right now. Right. And it sounds responsible in the moment. It sounds mature and even wise in the moment, but it's actually strategy that moves you forward. Strategy on pushing past the discomfort, right, of moving. I know it's hard, or it can be. But if you don't do that, if you're, you know, in that fear based realism mode, it will hold you back. You will stay exactly where you are. And that leads me into the sixth layer, which is the mom guilt loop. The mom guilt loop. And we all feel it. I feel it till this day, right? Every day, right? Where you're feeling selfish or, you know, investing in your personal growth or in your business. You know, you feel like, man, all of my energy needs to be on my children, needs to be on my family, into building this home and making sure that everybody's okay. But what about you? Are you okay? Because that's the loop of the mom guilt. It's like, you say you want your kids to be okay, but the fact of the matter is that if you're not okay, your kids are not okay. So you keep feeling guilty for not pouring into yourself. But when you don't pour into yourself, you don't show up as the woman, as the mom that you need to be for your family. And that is truly a disservice, right? Insecurity loves to sneak in, right? Disguised as this love for your kids, right? But it's not. What you don't realize is that you are doing yourself a disservice by not showing up for yourself. So get out of that mom guilt too. Now, for each of these layers of insecurities that I touched on, they are pointing exactly to where growth is possible, right? It is not impossible to move through these insecurities. And that is what I guide moms to solve, right? Because this is a special place that we're in. This is the biggest transition for a woman in her life, and it deserves special attention. First, we focus on your awareness. We notice where you're thinking, where you're believing, where you're interpreting this, right? Because that is where insecurity lives. For example, your old awareness will be, I don't know where to start, right? Which is valid for a lot of people, right? And that fear will come up as, what if I fail, right? And you may feel that that's real, but you haven't failed yet. So why are you creating this reality of failure? Insecurity shows up as overthinking, hesitation, being stuck, second guessing yourself, right? And when you notice those things, you're able to catch that and redirect your thinking, redirect it. Then from there, you begin to shift your identity, right? Based on those things that you notice, right? You shift it into a founder identity, builder identity, right? Creator, a leader, a matriarch. Your identity truly shapes how you see the world and how insecurity affects you, right? Because insecurity is normal, it's natural, it's fair, but you don't have to allow it to take over, right? You acknowledge it, you move past it. And then from that identity, your actions shift when your perception and your identity change, right? So your old identity would have waited for certainty, but your new identity as a mompreneur tests, she evaluates, she may iterate, pivot, right? She'll launch her business based on that evidence, right? So then those actions shift your outcomes, right? And that's the law, right? Different awareness creates a different identity. A different identity creates different actions. And therefore, different actions creates different outcomes. And it's so simple. But many of us struggle to get to this place. And I'm here to guide you there. So when you say something like, I'm just being realistic, right? That is a trap. It is a trap for us mothers and builders, okay, and business owners. When you hesitate, you truly miss out on the opportunities that were meant for you to take, right? And essentially, you reinforce the self doubt, right? It becomes a constant cycle. And then before you know it, you're looking back and saying, man, I could have shifted and made a different decision there, right? And we're not in the coulda, woulda, shoulda game, but you don't want to end up there and realize, I should have. You don't want to look back and realize that you're right where you've always been. I always like to leave you with something practical. So I want to call this maybe the evidence files, let's say, okay? And this tool is to help you combat insecurity. I want you to document your wins this week. Write them down in your journal, wherever. Sh- Document how you showed up courageously. Document certain decisions that you made, right? That you're proud of. Give yourself proof, the proof that you can trust yourself. Okay, this is what this is. Some things to think about. What you can say, what risk did I take today? That shows your courage. Um, what small win did I achieve today, this week? What did I act on despite of the fear that I was feeling? Take account of those things, right? Because confidence is a feeling, confidence can be built. And to build that, you take account of your wins, no matter how small they are. You take account of your wins, you take account of your decisions, and give your mind proof. And when you do that on a consistent basis, the confidence builds. Once you see the pattern, you can change. Okay. And I want to also close off by saying if you find that you feel spiral of doubt and you feel like you're second guessing yourself or you feel hesitation within yourself, I want you to know that you do not have to figure it out alone. Okay. We can work together on shifting that awareness, building that confident identity within you, and taking that aligned action toward creating the results that you want, right? The life that you want. So if you're ready to stop doing all of that, talk to me personally. You can schedule a call with me. The link is in the description down below. And we can talk and see if the Maven Reset experience is the right fit for you. It is a 12-week program for ambitious stay at home moms who are ready to build something for themselves, right? Who are wanting to step out of their insecurity, trust themselves, and really start building without sacrificing their family. All right? Until next time, I'll see you in the next one.